Growing up, I had dreams and aspirations, but always felt like the kid that didn't fit in. For the most part, I wasn't a bad kid, but when I made the transition into adulthood, I turned to the streets for guidance. This led to getting locked up in juvenile hall, doing time in CYA, and eventually a 120-month sentence in federal prison. I had a lot of time to think and reflect during my federal sentence, so I share with you what I learned, hoping I can positively influence someone else's life with Prison Talk. What's up, everybody? Big Herc in Prison Talk. I want to say thank you for tuning in for another episode. And thanks for supporting our channel and subscribing to our FreshOutSeries, Instagram and Twitter. And also for supporting our SoundCloud and Patreon.com, which is also FreshOutSeries. Had a question from one of our viewers. Actually, it was a two-part question. Do people have a sense of humor in prison? You know, can the behavior of prisoners inside ever be changed to match the logic of life outside? For example, conflict resolution skills, right from wrong, or is it silly to expect that? Well, for your first question, is there any humor in prison? Yeah, you have some humor. You know, you get to watch, they have movie nights, you know what I'm saying, on the weekends where they bring in movies and stream them through the TVs there. And, you know, if it's comedy, you can get a little laugh out here and there and try to enjoy a moment that's not so tense. But, you know, and you got guys who do their time, you know, kind of being clowns, you know, kind of being jokesters. And they, that's how they deal with the stress. That's how they cope with the uncomfortableness of being in prison. You know, they try to make a joke of it. You know, they're always clowning around and kind of like, you know, popping fly or catting off, you know what I'm saying? But there's not a whole lot of humor outside of that. You know, for me, every day I thought about, what if I was free? What would I be doing? There wasn't a day where I looked forward to participating in prison activities. There wasn't a day I looked forward to eating food in prison. There wasn't a day I looked forward to, you know, going to lay on my bunk to go to bed in prison because my sleep was horrible. You know, I'm always sleeping with one eye open. You know, going to the chow hall, you're always thinking about, you know, some shit can jump off. You know, it wasn't a humorous environment, so it wasn't a lot to laugh about. And the people that get in there and clown around like that, they think it's a joke. Those are the guys who go back and forth, because to them it's fun. They're out there hanging with the homies. They ain't really got shit to look forward to on the street, so they're having a grand old time up in there. But that wasn't me. You know, I wasn't with that shit. I wasn't trying to be comfortable in prison or make a joke of it, because to me it was serious shit. You know, wasn't nothing humorous about sitting down doing, you know, 120 months. So, you know, like I said, I was one of the guys where guys would tell me, hey man, you know, calm down, or, you know, relax, you know, because I would get pretty tense pretty quick. I wasn't with the bullshit. I wasn't with the games. I wasn't with, you know, any of the shenanigans they had going on up in there. You know, I was about trying to get the fuck out every fucking day, you know. So that was my goal, and that's how I kind of carried my time, with no humor about it. Now, as far as behavior of prisoners inside, can it be changed to match the logic outside? For the most part, no. If a person is up in there and they have a certain mind frame and they were raised a certain way, see, there's certain things that are instilled in you before you even hit prison. And that goes along with how you were raised. Were you taught manners? Were you taught how to treat people, you know, with respect? Were you taught to be courteous? Were you taught to, you know, say excuse me or pardon me, or, you know, just act like you have some sense? You know, how not to gossip, you know, how not to, you know, be in other people's business. If you weren't taught those things, you know, how to communicate instead of resort to violence, how to reason, a lot of times you're not going to learn those things in prison. You know, the guys that are in there that do something with themselves are guys who have somewhat of an inclination of what it means to be a normal person, and then they get in there and maybe they kind of work on bettering those characteristics by reading, you know, certain books that help sharpen you. But, you know, as far as asking to change the logic of somebody who's been a gang member since he was 12, 13 years old, it's not gonna happen. Them motherfuckers are straight knuckleheads. You know what I'm saying? They are not gonna, you know, because they get put in prison, wanna change their mentality if they have nothing else to look forward to or they have no point of perspective. See, me, I was raised on military bases. I was raised in the motherfucking hood, you know what I mean? Right up the street from the dope spot. And I was raised in fucking OC, Huntington Beach. The surfers and the skaters and all that shit. So I've been around it all. So I had a different kind of background and a different perspective. And my grandma taught me manners. I was raised by my grandma. You know what I'm saying? She taught me a lot of manners. My mom taught me manners. So, you know, I knew how to, you know, show respect and get respect back. But that doesn't, not everybody has that. So a lot of times the mentality of a prisoner is a prisoner's mentality. And these niggas is not going to change.